What if I told you that every decision you've ever made, every belief you hold, and every opinion you defend was set in motion long before you were even aware of it? That your thoughts don't originate from some central you, but instead they arrive, like waves crashing onto a shore you didn't design, from an ocean you don't control. And yet, there may still be a way to design your future self, not through free will, but through something far more powerful: the ability to shape what shapes you. And by the end of this episode, you won't just question free will, you'll question something deeper. If I am determined, what is determining me next? Sam Harris believes there is no free will. It's all an illusion, and in fact everything is determined. Here are some examples of what he talks about. So he says, pick a random number between 1 and 100. Don't overthink it, just let one appear. Whatever number you came up with, where did it come from? Did you consciously construct it? Did you scan every number and choose logically? Or did it simply just appear in your mind? Because if something as small as a number can randomly appear in your mind and appear without effort, without authorship, what does it say about your bigger decisions? Now zoom out. Your beliefs, your opinions, your ambitions, did you choose them? Or were they shaped by your parents, your environment, your culture, the information you consumed? So imagine rewinding your life. The same parents, the same school, the same experiences. Everything identical. Now press play again. Do you become someone different or the exact same person? If it's the same, then where is free will? Because if everything is cause and effect, surely every single cause and effect would lead you exactly to where you are now, listening to this podcast. And again, this is the argument made by Sam Harris that free will is an illusion, because you didn't choose your genetics, your brain chemistry, your upbringing, your early experiences, how your parents treated you, and what you were taught in school. Those shaped your brain. Your brain produces your thoughts produce your actions. So the question becomes, where do you step in? At what point do you override the system? Because right now, wait for your next thought. Don't force it, just observe. Is it a word? Is it an image? A memory? An idea? Again, did you choose that thought or did it just arrive? Is that deterministic or the free will of choice? Because Harris's conclusion is that you are not the author of your thoughts, you are the place they appear. Now let's move from theory to something real. Sam Harris talks about a story. In 1966, a man named Charles Whitman carried out one of the most disturbing acts of violence in modern history. But to understand it, you have to understand him. Whitman wasn't what you'd expect. He was a former US Marine, an Eagle Scout, an engineering student at the University of Texas, disciplined, intelligent, structured. But something began to change. In the weeks leading up to the attack, Whitman experienced severe headaches, intrusive thoughts, violent urges he couldn't explain. He wrote about them. He described feelings like something inside him was breaking, like his mind was no longer under his control. On August the 1st, 1966, he killed his mother, then his wife. Not in chaos, but methodically. He even left notes, explaining that he believed he was sparing them from future suffering. He bought weapons, ammunition, supplies, entered the building, killed people, and climbed to the 28th floor of the observation deck. For 96 minutes, he fired at the people below, students walking to class, people crossing campus, strangers living ordinary moments. 14 people were killed, 31 wounded, and eventually police officers reached the tower and Whitman was shot and killed. And after his death, they found something chilling, a note. He wrote that he didn't understand his thoughts. He was overwhelmed by violent impulses. He felt like something was wrong with his brain. And then they examined his brain. During the autopsy, they found it. A glioblastoma tumour pressing against areas of his brain linked to emotion, aggression and control. A commission later concluded that this tumour may have impaired his ability to regulate his behaviour. Let that sink in for a second. A physical mass pressing on the brain and potentially influencing murder. So from this, Sam Harris makes two claims. One is that if the tumour caused his actions, is he morally less responsible? And in some arguments you'd say yes, but then you could say, well, if someone's a murderer normally, it's not their fault that their genetics are as they are, because that's what caused them to act in such a way. And what about if all behaviour comes from the brain, and the brain is shaped by causes you didn't choose? Then no one is truly responsible for anything, are they? And his phrase was, it's brain tumours all the way down. But here's where we slow down, because something subtle has happened. Imagine a device that forces thoughts into your mind. Every time it activates, you think of a dog. No choice, no resistance. It proves something, that physical causes create thoughts. But here's the question. Does this prove that under normal conditions, you don't think? No, it only proves the system can be interfered with. A tumour is interference, not the system itself. So everything so far assumes something hidden, that there is a you separate from the brain. But look closely, where is this you? If it's not your thoughts, not your feelings, not your internal voice. You don't find a controller always, you find a process. Imagine a company runs perfectly, but there is no CEO, just systems interacting. Is that you? Not a controller, but a system. Maybe you're not riding the wave, you are the wave, shaped by forces beneath the system. But this is the breakthrough, and maybe Sam Harris is right. You don't control your thoughts directly, but is he wrong in the respect of, can we influence what creates them? So imagine your mind is a library, vast, endless, expanding. Every book you read gets added to the shelves. Every conversation becomes a chapter. Every experience builds a new section. Now ask yourself, who chooses what enters the library then? Not perfectly, not always consciously, but in reality, you do have influence, don't you? And here's the key. Your future thoughts come from this library. If deterministically we act on our experiences up until this point, could we change our experiences to another checkpoint? If we make decisions based on X, what if we added Y to the equation? Because even if your choices are determined, the consequences still compound. One event triggers another, which triggers another, a chain reaction. Because good inputs lead to better thinking, which leads to better decisions and better environments. Bad inputs lead to worse thinking, worse decisions, worse environments. You are a feedback loop. Your current state shapes your future inputs, which shape your future self. You are an algorithm that trains itself. Feed it a better idea, it becomes better. And here's the core idea. You may not control your thoughts, but can you influence what creates your thoughts? So imagine two futures, different inputs. Do we then get completely different lives? The real question then is not, do I have free will, but am I shaping what shapes me? Because let's think about this. The financial decision you make today would be very different in a year's time if you read 17 finance books. Your ability to write better would change if you watched 100 videos on how to be a better author. The way that you carry yourself in conversations would change if you read and looked at and learnt about how to portray yourself in a good way. It's the reason that reading books helps us to improve longer term. The inputs change the outputs later on. The deterministic output, we can't control, according to Harris. We act according to our mind. But if we give the mind different soil, different plants, different seeds, can it grow different flowers, different fruit? So if your future is built from your inputs, why not engineer them? Why don't we engineer ourselves in order to be a better computer later on, a better library, a better source of information? Because maybe Sam Harris is right. Maybe free will is an illusion, but that doesn't make you powerless. Now, you could say that Sam Harris is right, that if we do think about, I need to learn this to add to my bank of information, maybe that is deterministic, your choice. But at least if you ask the question, we now know what we need to learn in order to better improve ourselves over the long term. Even in a deterministic universe, systems can evolve, and you are one of them. You may not control the fact that you are determined, but you might control something far more powerful. What determines you next? And if you like this episode, don't forget to follow, like, comment, and subscribe. And just a quick shout out to our sponsors. Strong Coffee Company, protein-packed coffee for energy and clarity. Use code VANCRUX1 for 20% off at strongcoffeecompany.com. And then there's More Labs, clinically proven hydration and recovery drinks. Use code VANCRUX1 for 25% off at morelabs.com. And finally, Liquor Gummies, electrolytes and vitamins for hangover prevention. Use code VANCRUX1 for 20% off at liquor.com. That's liquure.com.